What's up,
What's
Solo?
up, Paula? I missed you. You know that? It's been too long.
It's been a minute. It has been a minute, and I hear you're not even in your home state right now. You out enjoying
I'm
life.
in your home state. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm visiting your home state. I've never been out here.
You're not in my home state. You 4 hours away from me. I'm not in South Dakota, child. I'm in Iowa.
Oh, in Iowa. Okay, I thought you were in South Dakota. I don't know why I thought that.
I used to go back and forth in South Dakota though. So we worked for the same
you.
company. Yeah.
Well, I'm closer to you here than I am in Charlotte.
That's
good
sure.
to be out here.
That's for sure. And welcome to our audience. Welcome to the 15th episode of Keeping You Wise by Keeping It Real, where we will have a great conversation tonight. I'm excited about this one. This is about Rise and Grind, the Black Entrepreneurial Journey. Yeah, this is going to be real good. My name is Paula Bell, if you've never seen me before, and I'm joined with my co-host Solo, also known as Chris Solomon. But before we jump in, I want to give a couple of disclosures just so that everybody knows. We are not therapists, and we do not offer any type of medical advice. We are not trained, qualified, or able to diagnose or treat any form of mental illness or disorder. And some topics we do have on this show may be triggering, so just be aware of that. But the purpose of this video podcast is to have real and authentic conversation that provides wisdom to all that are engaging in watching. And with that engagement, please interact with us via chat. We would love to hear your comments and any questions you might have for our guest speakers or myself and or Solo. And if you have any questions that you don't want to come out live and ask, you can always post them in the chat as well. Now, this episode will not go past 60 minutes. So we can't go past 60 minutes, Solo. We're not going to go past 60 minutes. And they are aired. We try and air them monthly, even though we've had a couple of misses there. But without further ado, Solo, who we got joining us today?
We got a couple people, but is it really the 15th episode? Like that?
It really is. Yeah, it really is. It really is.
This is going to be a good one. And we have some awesome guests. Our first guest, her name is Abena Imhotep. Abena is an author. She's an educator. She's a consultant and a speaker. Abena provides transformative guidance to a wide range of public and private institutions, businesses, community, and next generation leaders. And she's just wise, isn't she? Someone to definitely come on to Keeping It Real, or, she's just wise. Keep you wise by keeping it real, and she does that. We also have DG, Dante Garrett. Dante is a beast, a group fitness professional, a CEO, creator of Lift Fit DJ, certified group fitness specialist, NASM certified, extreme hip hop OG master trainer, certified spin instructor, Mad Dog, Schwinn, stages, you name it. And he wrote something beautiful, and I'd love to just share this. He says, fitness is about so much more than looking and feeling good. And he's so right. Those are free extras that come along with the true reward of pursuing the best physical and mental health, becoming your true self, your best self. That's the message DJ shares with thousands of people every day through Lift Fit DJ. Look him up. The company started to help those who are serious about getting and staying in awesome shape, mentally, physically, and otherwise. His instructor and extreme hip-hop master trainer have all culminated to form one of the most high-intensity group workout programs available, period. He never could have dreamed of the incredible results he's achieved together since launching the program in 2014. Today, Lift Fit DJ's reaches literally a global audience made up of passionate fitness veterans, as well as those who are just starting down their own path to more fulfilling, healthy lifestyle. And everyone in between. So all are welcome in his classes. So we have the wonderful Mrs. Imhotep and Mr. Garrett.
Hey.
Adana, how are you? DG.
I'm wonderful.
What's up? Glad to be here. Honored to be
here. Did I do okay with the intros?
Yeah.
Take you on the
road.
It was hot.
Hey, DG, I'm coming, man. I'm coming.
As we hear a car passing by.
That's me. I'm on the way.
That was like a perfect, though. Isn't that like a perfect segue into what you just said? I'm on the way. He's already coming. Well, thank you both for joining me. So I've known DG since 2020 myself. DG was actually my master trainer when I joined Extreme Hip Hop Step as a instructor. And
nice.
Yeah, so DG was the one who got me in the ranks, and I've done his challenges. It was his challenge solo that I did that one time when I got on the Mech Mastermind,
Yeah.
and asked everybody for prayers because
Yeah,
I was
you were kicking
doing
her butt, bro.
50 burpees and all other sorts of stuff, right? Yes, and then Albina is a fellow podcaster. So we've got her as well, who shares a lot of knowledge and gems and whatnot. And tonight is all about the entrepreneurial journey. So I'll kick it off, and then Chris, you jump in with any questions that you
Yeah.
have as well. I would like to know from both DG and Abena, what inspired you to become an entrepreneur, and how did your journey begin? And either one of you can start, whoever wants to start first.
Well, I can jump right in. My entrepreneurial journey started, it was kind of weird because I was working a job that I did not enjoy. I was pushing paper. At the same time, I was writing for a local Black newspaper, which is my passion work is writing. But I just couldn't at that time make it work as a career path. There was just no path for me. I didn't have the education behind me to lead me down that road. So I was working a dead end job, pushing paper for an insurance company, sitting in a cubicle all day, every day, miserable. But I'm listening to podcasts and I'm listening to people I admire talk about how they're doing what they're doing. And I'm like, dang it, one of these days, I'm finna do the same thing, you know? And so it wasn't until a holiday in 2017 I received, whenever Michelle Obama released Becoming, I got that book for the next holiday. And so I read that book. I called my homegirl up and I was like, listen, have you read this book? Because Michelle Obama is cold and she's kind of tripping a little bit. And my friend said, I don't know what you're talking about. And it was at that point that I realized I could create a community around the books that I read. And that is how my business was born.
That's awesome. And now all of us sitting in cubicles, hating our lives, listen to you, and we admire you, and you motivate us to be better.
Thank you. I'm living the dream.
Living the dream.
How about you, DG? When
All
did
right,
you
well,
become an entrepreneur, and how did your journey begin?
absolutely. So first of all, Paula and Solo, thank you for the invite, and I don't I count it an honor and a privilege to be invited to a platform where we're pushing entrepreneurship, of course, and we're pushing people to be inspired to be better. In 2014, pretty simple formula for me. I was tired of doing the day to day operations that were flying under the radar. That was status quo, doing things that always felt comfortable. Sometimes we're inside of a box and we feel so comfortable. So I was already into fitness, but of course I had to pay the bills. So whenever you're in a situation where you're in corporate America, you know that every 2 weeks you're going to get that paycheck, and you're guaranteed to work 40 hours a week, and you get a paycheck after 80. But I had this yearning and this calling to do something bigger and greater, and to impact people on a larger level. So when I started Live Fit DG in 2024, I started out my business with no business formula, no business plan. Even though I went to college for business administration, I just dove in. And sometimes we have to start messy. Things don't have to be all perfectly in order. We don't have to have the perfect HD cameras or perfect microphones or the perfect shoes. I tell my members, no matter how many times you change from Reebok to Nike to Adidas, if your mindset and your heart is not in it, it doesn't matter. So I started messy. And it all started from a desire just to want to help people on a larger scale. And I wanted to inspire people on a larger scale and get out of the rat race that I was doing every day. Not to knock those people that do those 8 to 5s or 9 to 5s or the graveyard shifts, because I definitely did that for the majority of my college, after college. But I wanted to dive in and inspire people. So I was definitely, it was kind of, I was born into it because my dad and mom were into it, but I felt like college was always the thing. Everybody said, go to college first and then figure it out from there. But I pivoted to just inspiring people, want to help people on a greater level. So that's the biggest reason why I started Live Fit DG.
And so let me just tell you. So DG, how many people follow you on YouTube right now?
Oh, I lose track. No, just I It's over
Ah,
100,000.
400,000.
100,000. Yeah, we crossed
Oh,
over 100,000 earlier this year. So we're at about 120,000 followers
fantastic.
on subscribers on YouTube, and then we have, I think, over 500,000 on TikTok and about 60,000 on Instagram. So just trying to reach the world globally is the biggest thing. So
GG, that's fantastic, man.
yeah,
You're really
I
making a
appreciate it.
huge impact. That's such a huge community.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And you cross the globe. You go across the globe. It's not
yeah,
You're not just regional. You're not just within your city or your region or the states that are around you or even just the United States. We have users that sign on from Brazil and Africa and Australia and New Zealand. So that's probably one of the coolest things is, man, being able to impact people on a larger scale.
man,
Day
that's
to day.
awesome. DJ, because you took the leap, you started messy, you didn't have a plan, but you had a passion and you followed it, and you worked your butt off. Now you're impacting people in Brazil and Africa and New Zealand. That's fantastic.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Let me ask y'all this. I think a lot of people have this mistake of entrepreneurial, like their entrepreneurial business. I'm the owner, I do the thing. So I'm not going to have to grind and do all this stuff that I don't want to do and work all these hours. Did you find when you did start messy that you worked more hours than that 40-hour week? And you had to wait longer than 80 hours to get that first paycheck? How did that work?
Yeah, and I'll jump in first. I think for me, I've done everything from when I first opened my first location. I did everything from mopping the floors to opening the doors to washing the towels every night to scrubbing the toilets to refilling the paper towel, running classes when instructors didn't show up. So I put more time in than the average person would assume because when you start a business, you always look at the biggest business and you say, oh, that's how my business is going to be. But you don't really think about the nuts and the bolts that go into it. For everything that you have to utilize, you have to pay for. Nothing comes free. So if you have a janitor, they cost money. And at the time, I didn't have money for a janitor, so I'm doing everything.
Yeah.
So the amount of time that I invested, my nights and my days just ran together. I don't really remember when the morning started, when the night ended. I just remember being up almost 24/7 for the first at least 2 or 3 months, just getting things on the ground and rolling. So yeah.
And I think the interesting thing for me is I can totally agree with DG. I was a team of one, and happy to do it, because to me my business is something that I gave birth to. It's something that I'm nurturing, something that I'm consistently pouring into, and so I'm willing to give my all. And as my business model has expanded and my offerings have expanded, I've been able to scale, and add a team, build a team around the work. So yeah, of course, I'm willing to, and this is what I told myself in the beginning, and I still tell myself that now, is that I am willing to work that 80 hours for myself because I'm building something that I can live on, that my family can stand on. It's a foundation, and it is a community. It's community property, and the community is beyond my geographical area, similar to what DG was alluding to, is that we are able to impact people all around the world. So and once we understand the meaning of community, that really solidifies our place in our space. So yeah, I'll work however hard I need to in order to advance the work that I'm doing, because the work that I'm doing is purpose work.
Yeah, and to add to that, what I find interesting is, can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So what I find interesting is that being an entrepreneur myself is people are like, you're always busy or you're always working, but it's not work
Right.
because you're flowing in your purpose, right? So it's not really work to me. It's actually something I enjoy. And if I'm going to grind that hard, I may as well grind that hard for myself,
Yeah.
opposed for somebody else, especially if I have something that's in me that I want to birth, right? So I 100% agree with everything that's being said, and we're in the little bits of the tidbits and gems that you gave to everyone during that.
I think when you said that, I was a team of one and I was happy to do it, that really hit for me. What I'm hearing from all of you saying is that It's not the work. It's not the hours. It's not the grind. It's the lack of purpose when you're sitting in a cubicle, right? It's the not following your path or your purpose or your heart when you're going to the college, when you know you just need to do your own thing and change the world. It's you could work 40, 80, 100 hours. And like what the old saying says, you find a job you love, you'll never work another day in your life. Now, that's all rainbows and unicorns, right? Like, that sounds great. Like, I'm working my passion. It's fantastic. Well, let's just get real. Like, life hits hard and doesn't pull punches. And I'm sure that you faced your fair share of significant challenges, especially as a Black entrepreneur. So I'd love to dig into your experience and tell me, like, how you overcame some of those challenges. How do you push through the struggle?
Well, I had some challenges that are not unique to me. I mean, these are challenges that many Black entrepreneurs faced. The first thing, though, for me was my mindset. I still had, for quite a long time, I had an employee's mindset. And it took so much effort to learn how to think differently. And once that mindset shift happened, things opened up for me. And also, the typical things that we all face, right? Like mentorship. I heard when I started my business that I would need a mentor, someone who could, point me in the right direction and give me the information. Someone who would be willing to coach me and be a cheerleader. I could not find that person. And so for me, the interesting thing was I started my business as an older woman. I mean now super old, but like my late 30s, I started my business in my late 30s.
Young.
Right.
Oh,
I know.
I'm
Thank you.
young, okay?
I was youngish. And so I had some influence in my community. And when I sought out mentorship, I was met with, you don't need mentorship. You should already know by now what to do. So I had to be clever about how I even perceived what mentorship could look like for me. So I think a lot of the times the answers for us as Black entrepreneurs is being willing to think outside the box. Because I did find those individuals that I could go to for answers to my questions and best practices, but these were not the typical people that I thought I could go to. They are not in my city, they are not even in my industry. They are people who are successful in their own right, but they ain't adjacent to anything I'm doing. So a lot of times we have to think outside the box. Of course, another challenge that I faced was access to capital. I mean, come on. That was a challenge, and again, thinking outside the box was something that I had to do in order to forward the work I do, which is creating spaces for lifelong learning that center the literature and scholarship of Black authors. That takes capital to do that, and so wasn't no bank trying to give money to a book club, and so those types of things. But knowing how to structure a business plan and seeking out individuals who had expertise in those areas, and again, thinking outside the box helped along with that.
Yeah, just to piggyback some of those points, but to pivot to, I think one of the biggest things I faced was, so if you like for Paula, she has this brand. You see the ninja, you see the Ninja P, like you understand that that's a brand. When I first got into the industry that I'm in, there was no brand recognition. So when you're coming into an industry of fitness, nobody's trusting you. You see the logo Nike, you know that when you buy Nike, you're buying quality material. One of the things that I faced was coming into this industry with no brand recognition, no trust, and those relationships that haven't been built yet. So I really had to grassroot and build those relationships with people in the community. And that was a challenging thing because people, of course, the fitness industry is one of those things that has the highest turnover rate. You have people that will invest in the beginning of the year because it's a New Year's resolution, but by maybe February, March, maybe April, or when the weather starts getting better, people start to pull away. So you have to really be results driven. You really have to follow through with those promises. You really have to get people onto those boats and get to those challenges. So building that brand recognition, getting people to trust you, building those community ties, letting people know that you're there for the right reasons and you're not here for the money. And you're also in a competitive world where you got big box gyms that are right around the corner, only charging $15 to $16 a month, or maybe $24 a month. And then I'm opening a fitness studio and we're charging $89 a month, but we're offering specialized group fitness. So then you have to balance not only your lack of brand recognition, but your competitors. How are you going to price yourself within a place that has to be competitive? Because the average person is going to say, unfortunately, one of the things that we face is people are going to say, I'd rather go to McDonald's and pay $1.99 for a cheeseburger as opposed to going to an organic place and paying $4.99, and it's going to be better for you. So you have people that are like, oh, I'll just pay the $15 a month membership to whatever big box gym, as opposed to going to somewhere that has better results and has more focused training, but doesn't have that brand recognition because they have all the commercial funding, and you see them on the Super Bowl commercials. And if you see the New Year's Eve ball, you'll see Crunch Fitness or Planet Fitness is all over that brand recognition. So people are recognizing those types of brands. So I would think that I would say that was one of my biggest challenges is building into that. And then the lack of capital. For every dollar that comes in, I'm spending $3. So you really have to say, I always look at Shark Tank, and if I ever went on Shark Tank, I would be one of those guys that would say, when did you start paying yourself? I really don't remember when I actually paid myself my first dollar, because if a machine gets broken, all that money goes straight to that $5,000 machine. I don't have a tree to shake and say, hey, big box gym, give me $5,000 for a treadmill. Memberships are funding everything that's kind of going in and going out. So, I mean, that was probably two of the biggest things outside of what she already mentioned that were challenges that I faced.
Get too much in your business, but how did you raise the capital? How do you go from having the passion, having the drive, having the ambition, to actually getting the dollars and cents? Because you could be the most brilliant person in the world, have the most drive, have a brilliant idea, but if you're broke, it's almost impossible to start something, to build a brand, to keep things going. How'd y'all do it?
Yeah, I mean, and not to, I don't think people mention this enough nowadays, but prayer, man. Prayer and God is what really, I know it sounds cliche to say, but I really didn't have the fundamentals in place to say that this is the system and this is how everything should be paid. I really just remember God giving it to me as the vision, and I always remember that He'll never put more on you than you can bear, and those that He has given a vision to, He's going to equip you with the ability to follow through. So that was always my thing. So, I mean, initially I would run classes that would pay for whatever equipment that I wanted to purchase. So I had a philosophy that I would never use credit. I would always, if my machine cost $1,000, I would run 10 classes to cover that 1,000. We'd put that 1,000 and purchase whatever, and then just go on from there. That's how I initially did it. I remember my bank account was very low at the beginning, so that wasn't an option. So it wasn't like I could tap into a bank account and say, hey, okay, I'm about to take this $20,000 out and flip it. You know what I'm saying? It was, we have zero today. Let's go raise this $1,000. Let me run 10 classes at $10 a pop per person. If I can get 50 people, then flip that. And that's how I essentially started from the grassroots.
And I can echo that. Prayer is an amazing thing. And for me also, in addition to prayer, just the reflecting on the ways in which my ancestors were able to make something out of nothing. My grandmother could go in the kitchen, where we would go in the kitchen and didn't see nothing to eat. There was no food. My grandmother come out of there with Thanksgiving dinner, and we were like, how did you do that? So I knew that there is a way to make something out of nothing. And I truly had nothing when I first started. I learned very quickly that I was pricing myself too low. My services, my products were all what I thought people could afford. And I realized that I'm marketing to the wrong audience. If you cannot afford my rate, then you are not my client. You're not my ideal client. So being able to identify who are the people that I serve, who could most benefit from this information, from this knowledge, from this whatever it is that I'm offering, and then marketing appropriately to that group and pricing aggressively. That has been the best way that I've sustained my business over these years. And yeah, in the beginning, no, there was no way I could access capital, because there was no point of reference for what I was doing. educational spaces that are not a school, and using the literature and scholarship of Black authors to center all of that work is completely out of the realm of possibility for a financier. So
Underwriter wouldn't know what to do with it. They'd be
yeah,
like,
they wouldn't know
I've
what to
seen
do
this
with it. They
before.
were like, "What? What are you trying to do?" It made no sense to me. I agree with DG. It's all about that vision that God gave me, and so I was really moving in faith, and I still do, because I haven't strayed from that vision. And every single door that I've knocked on has opened for me, and I've either learned a lesson or gotten very blessed by those doors that I've gone through. But again, the practical side of it for me was pricing aggressively, knowing who my audience is, and not being afraid to go for it under any circumstance. Not being afraid to go for it.
Is that a
I
part
just
of
want
the
to follow
mindset
up.
shift too? I'm sorry, DG. Yeah.
Just one quick thing, and we got. I know y'all want us to be transparent and honest on here, so the listeners that will listen to this, and I want you to just talking about pricing. When one of the things that we do as Black entrepreneurs, because that's what these questions are geared towards, is when we're looking at those price points. Sometimes just being transparent and honest, we're afraid sometimes to say, okay, I know what the market says for what someone of my caliber should be charging, but when we price ourselves under, it's always because we're considering, man, what if I come in too high? They're not gonna, the community of people I know, they don't even know me like that. They're not gonna want to pay X, Y, and Z. But if you look at the other side of it and you look at what other people are pricing, you're like, yo, I'm way below. But that's one of the most fearful things is you come in the market thinking, man, I don't want to outprice. I don't want to go too high because I don't want my friends and family and the people around me are not recognizing me. So that's one of the things as entrepreneurs that we really have to have faith in and really look at the market. And whatever your market value is, ET speaks about this a lot. We had the same attorney for a long time. And one of his things is when he went from like that 5-figure to 6 figures of speaking engagement, that was unheard of in the inspirational category of speakers. But that was what his worth was, and people had to start accepting that. Okay, this is his value. This is what it costs to get me to come to LA. If I need 2 first-class tickets and blah blah blah, this is what it costs. Sometimes we're hesitant because we're afraid, like if I go too high, they're not gonna mess with me. But then you're undervaluing yourself, and then it looks as though like you're the cheap or the thrift person of the industry, and you have to price yourself where not only you're comfortable. I always said I'm not gonna just throw out a price because everybody's getting that. But what's my worth? What's the value? Right. You don't pay me for even the 30-minute class. You're paying me for all of the time that I invested to be able to get to the point where I'm now an expert and I can do whatever I did in that 30 minutes. You know what I'm saying? So, that was just a good point I wanted to bring up about the pricing, because sometimes as entrepreneurs, especially Black entrepreneurs, we always just try to undercut ourselves and think like, what do I price myself at? You really have to look at the market, and it's a hard thing to do because you do have to be comparative, and you have to run analysis of what other people are making, what I'm going to charge, and what you really think is fair and what's right.
And I love this, DG. You're going to be my best friend, because the thing is, after you look at what it takes for you to create this offering that you're giving, the information, the knowledge that you've accumulated over time and that you're sharing with people, but then consider the impact that your audience is going to have. That by sharing what you have prepared to an audience of 500, 1,000 people, that if they enact what you're teaching them and what you're sharing with them, that they can see an increase in revenue by however many percent. Absolutely. And based on this projection, you can also calculate that into your value, into your pricing. So this is what I do, and I do it with great pleasure because I've been in the game for a long time. I know the impact I have. I've gone back to my clients and done feedback sessions on, were you successful? Did you implement? Tell me about your implementation. Where did you go wrong? Where did you go right? Where did you see the difference made? Bottom line, what was the bottom line and how was that impacted? And based on that, I know the impact that I have for the people that I speak to. And that also informs, in part, my aggressive pricing.
Yeah, absolutely. Planet Fitness had this business model. They still do. Their business model is to go low in price and get as many people as they can. You have other gym models that are like the Bally's and the even the YMCA's and the high end, they're gonna go high end, and they're gonna get as many people as they can. But if they don't get 15,000 members, they're still priced at a price that will cover a certain amount of demographic. Planet Fitness is gonna market at a low rate and just go get as like hundreds of thousands of people. So you have to have different business models. My business model now is the one that you speak of. I'm valuing based on the market, how it's going to be impactful to you, how you're going to take that information I share with you, and then you're going to flip that into thousands and whatever. So you got to put that into the price point of that knowledge. I know we're always giving people free nuggets, but I had to stop giving people free nuggets of things that I had to pay for in blood, sweat, and tears. And unless you're in a capacity where like it's got to be mutually beneficial for me, unless you're one of my friends that me and Paul are just shooting ideas, because I know she's going to shoot me an idea that's going to benefit me, so I can give her an idea about whatever platform I'm using or whatever. But those free nuggets that we earned and we really put that blood, sweat, and tears, other people don't just give away those things for free. You have to go to courses and get information from people and pay a fee to get that type of information.
Woo, y'all speaking tonight, because this pricing thing is an issue. I'm loving when I tell you it is an issue, even when I echo everything that was just said, because when I did my market analysis last year and was looking at the market for the coaching and things that I do, people don't understand. In 2020, I spent about $20,000 on myself. Okay. You couldn't do anything. So what I took that time to do was do better for myself, mind, body, and soul. Right. So no, I'm not just going to give you everything I learned. And in addition to that, people need an incentive. When you just start giving people stuff and just giving it freely, the chances of them actually using that information and doing something with it is not as high as if they had to invest something of themselves into that journey, right? Yeah. And so sometimes, unfortunately, who you think your client base is going to be is not going to be your client base. And that's okay. You're not for everyone and everybody isn't for you. But what be getting me is you can't spend $97 a month rocking with my boy DG, but you can buy the latest iPhone. Right? You have the latest Coach purses. Right? But what's that going to do for you? DG saving your life. What is that Coach purse going to do for you? What's that iPhone going to do for you? Right? That's where I have the problem.
It looks cute on your arm. I mean,
right.
But what if your arm is infected with diabetes and high blood pressure?
Or you got sarcopenia and you can't hold it because you ain't got no muscle.
Yeah. But like you say, that's why we charge for challenges, because people will blow off something that's free. Mm-hmm. But I'll be damned if I paid $100 a month and I'm not going to drag my butt to these classes.
Exactly.
So it's like, okay, I'm going to go. I'm going to at least get up and try to go. So, I mean, the incentive of free versus charging people, I mean, you always balance it because you want to feel like, okay, I'm giving back and I'm helping people. So I don't want to not share the knowledge because I don't want to feel like I'm hoarding this information. But definitely you have to value what you have and what you do.
Do you think that kind of speaks to the shift you have to make from an employee mindset to an owner mindset? Is the pricing part of that as well? You're putting yourself in the, I don't, but really from a business owner, it's a completely different, I would assume mindset. Because now if you don't price it right, you got teams under you. You got people who need to get paid. They have families that they need to feed. They have dreams in their heart. So was that kind of that mindset shift? And how did you all make that?
I mean, for me, go ahead. You can go ahead.
Well, I'll just say quickly, it was part of that mindset shift. I mean, and that didn't happen overnight. That is a process that sometimes I still have to remind myself of what I'm doing, who I am, because it's so easy, y'all. There's the traffic, my bad. But it's so easy to revert back into what you once did and how you once conducted business. So I always think about the difference between Walmart and Saks Fifth Avenue. Walmart, you're going to see the commercials on TV. You're going to see when you get into the store, there's a ton of people there shopping for various different reasons, for various different things, because you can get everything in this one spot, literally everything. And there's a certain price point that works there. And there's going to be a lot of signage to do with sales and special deals. Saks, there's not going to be a lot of people there. You may not see a commercial. There are very specific items carried there for a specific group of people. So I constantly remind myself that I offer very specific and tailored and customized work for a specific group of people. I'm not for everybody, and I'm totally fine with that. And there are things that I offer to everyone that is free material. I consider my podcast a part of that. The information and knowledge and wisdom that happens on Black and Privileged in America podcast is free for everyone who watches. And that is part of my heart that I give to the world, inviting amazing guests, just like you all are doing. And that's public consumption. Yes, you can get that. But if you want something special just for you to advance your purpose, to help you reach a specific goal, then we have to talk differently. We speak about that differently. And there is a price to be paid for that. And knowing who your audience is, they understand the value of what you have to offer, and they're willing to spend that dollar to get the result.
Yeah, and for me, part of it when I was younger, I remember, and I'm gonna age myself a little bit, but I remember this distinctly. But I was using this Comet. I know people probably don't use, the Comet that you clean the bathroom.
Yeah. The
And I remember
bathtub.
growing up as a kid, I was just throwing it all over. I mean, why? Because I wasn't paying for it. My dad was footing the bill. But when I shifted to being an adult, where now every single inch of everything that is in this house I pay for, okay, now
Let me be,
starts
yeah.
and you stretch it a little bit further. In no other industry do you see the head dude flipping the prices when people come in based upon where they are in life. When you go through McDonald's or Whole Foods, their prices are what their prices are. You either can afford them or you cannot. But as a Black entrepreneur, I always found myself kind of negotiating with like, okay, maybe I should come down a little bit, or maybe I'm a little bit too high, or maybe I should negotiate. But I was negotiating against myself, and I knew my worth and my value. So I had to stop doing that, and I had to shift my mindset from like, everybody's not going to be for me, and I'm okay with that. But I am going to make it affordable to as many people as possible. But I also have to figure out that if I cut myself out on the front end, I'm cutting myself out on the back end, because at the end of the day, it's not going to add up. So when I went from working for someone else to working for myself, I'm looking at the books. I'm doing and I know how much I'm spending on certifications and conferences, and to sit in front of people and be like, okay, I'm gonna give you a 50% discount for what?
Yeah.
What's the purpose in it? If I'm running a Black Friday special, that's different. Or if I'm running some type of deal. But as far as coming in Mondays, we're not negotiating. Because at the end of the day, consumers, energy, board of water, and light, they're not coming to me saying, okay, man, what can you pay us this month? No, they're gonna say, this is your usage, and this is your electricity, this is your cell phone, this is what we need. So I mean, that was the biggest thing, shifting the mentality from, hey, it's just whatever, to like, okay, wait a second, like, this has to stretch to the next month. Some things we can't do this month, I'm gonna have to go grind a little bit harder to get to that next month.
Yeah, that's amazing right there. And I think it's a great segue into something else that I want to talk to you all about, because I am interested. I just had a conversation in the mastermind group that I run. Solo, you need to come back at some point, please.
Man, I was traveling yesterday.
Okay.
I'll be there.
All right. Okay. So we had a very interesting conversation, and the mastermind group that I have started is a minority entrepreneurial connection group. And I intentionally made it a minority group back in 2016 because I was sick and tired of seeing my fellow people of color go into the grave with their purpose, and we never got to experience it because of some of these obstacles and challenges that we're talking about currently. So what role has the community played in supporting your businesses and helping you be successful? And I'm very interested in what is the demographic of the community support that you are seeing? Yeah,
Great
we're going to
question.
talk about it. We're going to talk about it. You
It's a
are
great
seeing
question.
supporting you as a Black entrepreneur. And Abena, you smiling, so I am ready to hear what you got to say.
Because I love this. I love this question because, okay, when I first started out, my business has evolved. But at the very beginning, it was a book club. And again, only Black books. We read Black books, books by Black authors across the diaspora. So wherever they are in the world, as long as they're Black, we're reading the book. But the book club itself was open to everyone. So I had a steady group of about 20 people who would get together. We get together in person once a month and read a book by a Black author. And then we'd have all these ideas and concepts and takeaways from just across the gamut. Every identity was represented in these book club groups. COVID hit, we had to go virtual. That was probably the best thing that could have happened because we
Still
went from
crazy.
20 people to like 60 people online. And then I realized this is too big. So then we morphed again and we became um, quarterly. And then I'm running book clubs all across Iowa virtually. And then I'm like, okay, I'm reading too many books. And now my entire audiences look white. Okay, this is really weird. After George Floyd happened, everybody wanted to understand race and they wanted to read books about and or by Black people. And so my demographic shifted dramatically. Black folks was like, we already know this. We already know this. We don't want to relive trauma. And a lot of white-led organizations or just white interested groups would approach me about the books or making book recommendations. And so what I had to get back to was my core. Like, who is my audience? Who am I speaking to? What is my message?
Mm.
And it's not only about making money. It is, yeah, no lie, I'm a business owner. I want to make money, but all money ain't good money. And so I had to think about that again. Who is my audience? What is my message? Who am I to the community I serve? And then who are we to each other? That's what mattered the most. And so, yeah, now my audience is still very diverse, but I've shifted some of the offerings. So there is one part of my consultancy speaks to business owners and organizations and institutions, and there is a package, a set of packages for that group. And then there is some community level things, some offerings for Black facing groups, but particularly educational institutions and community groups and things like that. So it varies, and I think to me and what I do, it matters who the audience is. For some groups, it doesn't matter. Everybody's dollar is green, but again, it just depends on what your purpose is and who your audience is.
Yeah. So to answer the audience or the community is was a vital part, especially in the beginning for me. And I always stay close to my roots. I grew up a PK. My dad's a pastor, so community is kind of what churches are built on. Those are the places you go to for refuge. You go to confide, to confide in people. When I started my business, because we were brick and mortar pre-pandemic, my community was one thing. Once the pandemic happened and all of my brick and mortar locations were closed down, I had to go cast my net now on the internet. When we go into this internet world, where now your demographic changes. You go from just being local to regional, and now we have to cast this big net across the entire internet. So now we're going to YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. But I've always been about humans, people. My demographic has always been whoever I can help and change. Has always been my demographic and my community. Nobody's too young. Nobody's too old. I don't think that's ever something that I would look at and say, hey, somebody's too old or too young. My dad's 84 years old. He still walks as much as he can daily, weekly, trying to keep himself physically in shape and, of course, mentally in shape. So my community has always been important to me, but I would say that my original demographic and who I was shooting for drastically changed when the pandemic happened, because now I can't just focus on the people that are within my brick and mortar locations because the pandemic closed all that up. So it was a blessing. I never say it was a curse because what was taken from me during the pandemic, I was able to regain it tenfold by casting that net on the internet and saying, okay, we're going to go out. But of course, like I think Paula said earlier, when you do things on the internet for people, they get accustomed and they get comfortable to you offering so much stuff for free. You have to say, hey, I'm going to do this free video on YouTube, but if you want to get the in-depth video, you have to go to my website and get like the full breakdown. But people online are like, oh, we need this video. Yeah, you got to like, these are free, but this gets you to from A to B. But in order for you to get C, D, and all, you know, the further ones, you have to pay to the website. So I would say my community's changed, but I would say for the better, you know, because it's a bigger net.
And I would say that's important too, because when your community changes and you have the right people behind you or engaging with you because they want it, those are the clients you want. You want the clients who want it, who's going to rock with you, who is going to, they're in it for the right reason. You have to be really careful, just like you said, DG and Abena, you have to be really careful and balance free content versus paid for content. And so I've found with my personal business, with the coaching and consulting and speaking, what I have stopped doing when I first started speaking back in 2009, I needed to build my credibility and trust and let people know that I actually know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, it is 2024. Those days are over. I've been speaking for a while. So if you want me to speak, I'm not doing all these free speaking gigs and you want me to travel and you want me to stay an extra day. I run a business. And, you know, I think sometimes what I have encountered, and I'm going to say this, and it's probably going to make some people mad, but this has been my experience. I'm speaking my truth. I'm speaking my reality. It may not be yours, but my people will come to me because they are my people and want a discount and get upset if I don't give them a discount. And this is what I say to them. Wonder if you went to your 9-to-5 job tomorrow and your boss said to you, you know what, on payday, I'm only going to give you 50% of your check because I need to give you a discount. How would that make you feel? Well, I wouldn't like that. Then why are you expecting us as entrepreneurs that this is our livelihood, that we should take away 50% of what we're doing to satisfy your need? Because you wouldn't do it yourself, but you're expecting me to do it.
Yeah.
And that's where I got comfortable with, you're just not my client. And it's okay that you're not my client.
I think that's a great point. I think I have to give an account too for the internet and the Instagram experts, right? The people that have went to Instagram universities and they're giving out all this free advice. And I'm not knocking those individuals that turn their hustle into a business, because I did very similar. But you're like an actual professional motivational speaker with credentials that span beyond the timeline or the story on Instagram. But because that's the norm now, we have so many Instagram models that give you a 30-second snapshot of a workout and you think, okay, well, they must really be in shape. It's the same thing with these motivational speakers that are just on Instagram, taking content from somewhere else that they didn't create, but they repurpose it and post it. And then people start following them and they're giving out all this free content and doing all these motivational, workshops. And you're just like, I actually went to school for this. I have credentials. I spent $20,000 during the pandemic investing on myself to help people further. But we're in such a microwavable society where people want things instantly and so fast, and they don't really even ask you, well, what are your credentials? Like, what certifications do you have? Like, what school did you go to? Like, Hard Knocks is one, life is one, but like, what do you have behind you that makes your credentials stand out and makes you be who you are? So, I mean, we're also facing that in 2024.
But you know what, DG? I had somebody ask me, who again was my people, ask me at a event that I was a vendor at, point blank asked me, so what are your credentials? Why should I work with you? And I wonder if they would have asked that same question to someone that didn't look like me. Now I have a little placard that has all my credentials on it. You don't have to ask me, just look at the placard, right? Yeah. But I just thought that was so interesting that I got that question as far as what are your credentials? Why should I even listen to what you have to say? I'm not saying you can't ask the question. Yeah. It's a very valid question. You should know what people's credentials are.
For sure.
But
advice,
but I was just interested. I was like, I wonder how many people actually go and ask that question.
You know, and I'm a firm believer that friends and family at times should just be friends and family. If you know me from back in the day, great. I love you. We can still be cool. But when it comes to business, this is different. And so it takes sometimes that tough love for our communities to recognize that we operate differently in business. We are used to being able to barter with one another because we had to for so long. But that understanding of what your business is, what it does, and who it's for, that has to come through. And, you know, I realized in the beginning that my family, they weren't very supportive of my work because they didn't get it. And it wasn't for them to get, it wasn't for them. They're not my audience. So now I'm okay with them being my friends and family. That's fine. And again, that's that mindset shift of, yeah, our people are going to approach us and things like that, but being okay within ourselves to know that, okay, that's friends and family. That's the category that they're in. And that's it. And then I think that's good enough.
You think about it, friends and family should get upcharged. It's like, oh, you're a friend or a family member? Hit me with an extra 20% because I'm out here grinding. And this is my only source of income. So you can go get a 20% discount at Arby's, get a couple of beef and cheddars. But for me, you want to throw me an extra 20 because you want to support what I'm doing. I wonder sometimes why we have, baby showers and we have, all these celebrations, but we don't have like entrepreneurial showers, right? You start your own business. Let's all show up and buy some stuff because we want to support you. We want to throw in on it. I don't want a discount. I want you to succeed because you succeeding makes the world a better place for me. Like, I want all of your businesses to do great because the world is better when it does. So I feel called to ask you guys this. I feel the good Lord asking me to ask or just say something to ask a question, because I've heard all of you say passion, purpose. It's in your heart. It's my dream. And I feel like at church, we spoke about, shout out, elevation, church. We spoke about God putting dreams in our heart. And I believe that God put these big dreams in our heart, impossible dreams in our heart for a purpose. And a lot of the times you think that, finding your purpose will give me that happiness. And it does, but it doesn't do it because you found the purpose. I found that God puts these impossible big dreams in our heart because he knows that it's impossible for us to achieve them without communion with him, without drawing closer to him, without the prayer that you spoke about, without the hitting your knees and not getting those prayer knees lazy. So my question is, did you find yourself drawing closer to God after truly taking the leap and following that passion that he put in your heart?
I'll start with absolutely, because I think that at some point, you almost feel like you got to look back and say, are you sure that this is what you told me to do?
Because, you sure it's me, God? You sure you want me to do it?
Did you really call did you call my name when you were saying to start this business? Because this can't be right. Because I think that I assumed that if I put one step, then the next, you assume, because you're like, if you do this right, everything. But he doesn't always. He orders your steps, but he doesn't always give you the pieces to the puzzle. He doesn't always show you the next step before you get there. And sometimes it takes stumbling, and it takes rubbing your elbows against the ground, and it takes getting on your knees more, because we're so reliant, especially in fitness, on your physical ability. But God wants you to know that your physical ability has nothing to do with this vision that I'm giving you. I need you to rely more on me than you have to rely on the people around you. When the bills don't add up at the end of the month and you have an overhead of $20,000 and you see that only $15,000 came in, I'm going to give you the increase. But if you always have the answer, you're always going to introspectively say, I got this. But God needs you to say, nah, I need you to depend on me so I can show you the way. So it made me be like, okay, I'm getting closer and closer to him, and my relationship has to be, because sometimes that's all I have to stick to, because the numbers don't add up and the people don't add up and the conversations aren't even what I want to have and the things are just not adding up. So I had to just had to say, hey, I have to rely on you because nothing else makes sense right now.
I just
Sometimes out of 10, right, DJ? Sorry.
Yeah. I completely vibe with everything you said, DG, because for me, my stepdad and my mother pastored a church for 20 plus years, and born and raised in the church, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We might have had Saturday off. Sunday we already knew what Sunday was. So this was innate for me. I understood God from a distance. Um, but starting a business was something that I didn't equate with God right away. Ironically enough, I thought, yeah, this is me. This is me doing the work. It wasn't until I hit that brick wall, like the one behind you, Solo, and I had no other option but to get on my knees and to pray and ask for help. I didn't know what I was doing. I was failing. And all of the odds were against me. I had my first child right my senior year of high school. College was out of the cards for me. I didn't go back until 25 years later to get my degree. And so many years later, when I started to find a little success and understood the weight and the heaviness of my work. My work is dealing with books and knowledge and information and getting into people's heads. And so there's a responsibility that comes along with that. And I remember one night I'm writing a speech, and it was just like writing a sermon. And I started to think, oh my gosh, I'm preaching. I'm legit
You
preaching.
know.
So I'm like, I have this huge responsibility. So I started to, as a writer, I always write my manuscripts by hand at first before I type them up because it's more intimate. I internalize it and remember it easier that way. And so one night I'm writing, and I felt, this is gonna sound crazy to some of y'all, but maybe some people will vibe with this. But I literally felt like my hand was guided. My pen was guided by God. And when I finished that manuscript that I had been working on for 5 months and crossing stuff out the whole time, but this one night I sat there and rewrote the whole thing and it came together perfectly. It ended up being my TEDx talk. And that was the talk I delivered on the TEDx stage. And that was the one that I knew, okay, you know what? There's no doubt God is with me. There's no doubt. So yeah, I give it to God. I give it to God. Every um, ounce of success that I ever have has not been by me alone. And I think we need to understand the power that worketh within us and be able to understand that, welcome that, yield to that, leverage that, and really honor it with everything we got.
I mean, I don't know a better way because we're already past 7:15, but I don't know. Well, 7:15 Central. Let me say 7:15 because we're all in different time zones. I don't know a better way to end than on that right there. I mean, I think that was like the most perfect question.
I do want to say your TED Talk was fire, by the way. I checked it out. So
Thank you.
Yep.
And that's another thing. So I do want to add this one thing that I do feel that we need to do a better job of, and DG just demonstrated it. We've got to do a better job of sharing each other's stuff because all of us have networks and platforms. And I know I have shared DG's things with my network here in Iowa. I'm like, I will actually let you all come to my class for free for a month if you do his challenge, right? Just to support him. And that's how we grow and demonstrate that we can be unified, especially as Black entrepreneurs. We got to be here for each other.
Yeah.
Because
a rising tide versus all boats.
Yeah, refer each other. If you know somebody's got an expertise in something, refer them and help each other's businesses grow. And so
it looks like we got to do a part two.
I think so, because I got more questions.
I really was thinking like, man, an hour, we should be able to knock out an hour. But as the time starts to roll, I'm like, I'm like, is an hour enough? But
I agree, and
because
I
we
had
haven't
4
done.
tips for entrepreneurs. I have my 4 tips, but I can save them for next
You
time.
know what? That
we
will
can
be the
hit those.
cliffhanger. Give them the cliffhanger.
All right.
If you want to get
Cliffhanger.
the tips, you got to tune into the next. You got to tune into part 2.
I'm game for part 2.
That's what I
Me
think we
too.
should
Let's
do.
do
There will
that.
be a part 2. There will be a
Let's
part
do
2.
that.
I'll try and get something scheduled for August or September, depending on y'all's schedules, and we'll do a part 2 of this because I really do think this is needed. I love this conversation.
So far away, by the way. September seems so far.
It really does,
away.
doesn't
Yeah,
it?
I think we should.
It's just around the corner.
It
Right.
is true.
That's true.
I'm
But,
going
I
for
mean-
August myself. So I'll send some dates out in August and see what we can do in August. But I think that's a great just cliffhanger. You want more tips? Tune into part 2.
Yes.
But before we go and wrap up everything, I want to at least give both of you an opportunity to share your social media details. I do have them on the screen right now. DG's is real easy. Just get fit with DG. You'll find them everywhere. But I want to give you all a chance to share what you want to share as far as individuals reaching out to you.
Well, I can be found on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram and X at Abena Sankofa. And then my website is there, abenasankofa.com. So yeah, reach out to me, and I welcome questions. And you can ask me about any book that has ever been written, and I promise you, we will find the answer, if not the book itself. And Paula and Solo, thank you so much for having me on. And DG, it was great to meet you.
Pleasure is all ours.
Yeah, it was definitely an honor and meeting you. I watched the TED Talk, so I'm always amazed though by how you only have 4 like the views on yours. I'm like, I've watched other TED Talks, and I'm like, her information was so dope. So I'm like, so we do need to share that more. But anyway, Get Fit with DG, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. That's how you find me. So Get Fit with DG. That's all my handles on the internet. My website's Get Fit with DG. So always shoot us an email or shoot us a message, and we'll reach back out to you. So definitely, thanks for having me, Solo and Paula, and of course, nice meeting you. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, so don't you two go anywhere. You got to stay until we end out. So stay online. But that's a wrap, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. This episode was amazing. Here is our social media details to keep the conversations going. And if you have questions for DG or Abena, put them in the comments on YouTube or in LinkedIn, or just send them in, and we will make sure they get addressed in part 2, which will be happening in August. So as Solo also always says, you now have more knowledge. So for each one, reach one, teach one. So go out there and teach what you learned today, because when you know better, you do better. So let's continue to do better, and we will see you all in August with part 2.